Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unbottleneck, the podcast where we solve common digital marketing problems. And today I'm with Andy Crestodina. Andy is the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Orbit Media, an award-winning 42-person digital agency in the beautiful city of Chicago. Over the past 20 years, Andy has provided digital marketing strategy to more than 1,000 businesses. He's a top-rated speaker at national conferences, a writer for some of the biggest blogs online, and has a passion for all things digital marketing, something he and I have in common. And he's also the author of Content Chemistry, an illustrated handbook on content marketing. You definitely have to check that out. And he's written hundreds of articles on content strategy, search engine optimization, social media, and analytics. He's a mentor at 1871, the #1 incubator in the U.S., a guest lecturer at Northwestern University, Loyola University, and others. He's a digital marketing instructor at Harbor Space University, which we're going to hear about in a minute. And together with the team at Orbit, Andy organizes a conference called Content Jam, which is allegedly Chicago's largest content marketing conference. Andy can be found at orbitmedia.com. He's on Twitter at Crestodina, Crestodina, if you want to check him out. Andy, thank you so much for joining us today. And tell us a little bit more about this Harbor Space University that you've been teaching at.
Sure. My wife likes to travel. They're in Barcelona. It was an invitation to come teach a 2-week class, which meant a 2-week trip to Spain. She was excited about it. I was quite interested, so I agreed. It's vacation, right? Let's go to Harbor Space. Let's go to Spain. So did that for 3 years and loved it. They provide housing. It's like such a fun experience, and a lot of other marketers that you may know have also been guest instructors there. Mark Schaefer, Carla Johnson, other people, Jessica Best.
She didn't make you run with the bulls while you were there, though, right?
No, but I would never run with the bulls.
I would have known that so quick.
Yeah, that's just I would have gotten run over. I would have gotten gored for sure. Anyway, I love Harbor Space. This is my 5th year, but now it's remote because it's COVID era. And so it's something that I have to do very early in the morning right now. So during this week and the next week, I'm like teaching digital marketing from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And then I have my normal day, which is fine. It's mostly fine, but it does make for long days.
You have to create a special Andy meme that's just like the one with the fire in the background in that cartoon.
Right.
Everything's fine. It's 5 a.m. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Well, awesome. Could you share a bit about the ongoing mission, and perhaps a little bit more about your new role at Orbit Media? I know you mentioned before the call that we switch roles a little bit. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I am I never had any special gift for the regular business skills. I'm not like an MBA or that kind of thing. So, and I don't agree that it's a foregone conclusion that founders should be CEOs. It's not necessarily the best or the funnest job at a company. I think it's a tough job, as you know. Steve, you've been there. You are there. So I got lucky in a way because my co-founder and I had a client, Todd Gettelfinger from Lead Vantage, change management consulting firm, who we got to know pretty well as being across the table, working together. We're a web development company. We're building a site. And then he offered to come in and do some advisory work when I got to know him better and he heard about some of our challenges. Right. So it went from client to advisor to sort of consultant to CEO. The day we said, listen, Todd, when you're here, it's a good day. When you're not here, it's a bad day. So now there's
a correlation.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Just handing off all of the business responsibilities, the HR, the finance, all the things that we struggle with as small agency owners. When you just say, "Hey, I don't have to deal with the business anymore. I get to do what I enjoy. I get to be in the marketing." What did that feel like?
Well, it feels like this because I wouldn't be here otherwise. I was doing all this is exactly what it feels like. I was doing all of the sales and marketing, and I was writing proposals all night and talking to clients all day, prospects all day, and it was miserable. It was really difficult.
It's hard to be innovative, right? It's hard to really, there's this new thing. I can't wait to learn about AMP, or I can't wait to learn about Core Vitals. And I can't. No, I have to be on a sales call.
Yep,
right?
all the time. Yep. My first priority was for clients. Exactly. So I basically, after he came on board and built the sales team, I doubled my publishing frequency. I created a monthly event, which is now a bi-weekly event. I created that conference, Content Jam, that you mentioned. I wrote a book. It's more recently produced, built up a YouTube channel. So I would not be you and I wouldn't be talking. I would never have had the opportunity to double down on content marketing, search, influencer marketing, social media, email marketing, blogging, all those things.
Right.
So it made all this possible.
And that's amazing. And all those things play a role in what the business does, which
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned earlier, focuses around web design. That's sort of the core of the business. What does Orbit do, and how do you see the company growing in the next few years?
Well, we do web design and development, which
Okay,
I often tell people never let your kids go into web design and development because it's a very challenging category in digital
it is,
because
and competitive.
it's very competitive, right? Low barrier to entry. Also, kind of an emotional decision for clients. Like you have to love it. Literally, you need to have feelings
Hmm.
before you'll approve a web design.
Right.
There's a million little details from accessibility, privacy laws, mobile friendliness, ability to track easily, to be beautiful, to be on brand, to convert visitors, to rank in search. I don't know. I think there's even more.
Accessibility,
Yeah.
security, privacy, right? All of
Yep.
those different elements come into play. Now, mobile and
Sure.
voice search enablement. Yeah,
A
there's so
gazillion little,
much more now
so many
that there was
details.
when you and I started.
Yep. Yep. So we go back and back in that era, like early 2000s or 90s for you.
Yeah.
But now it's sort of like, you have to be able to answer any of hundreds of possible questions, common
Hmm.
questions, but there's still hundreds of them. And so it just ends up being a relatively low margin category, I think, in digital compared to some others.
Sure.
So you should only do it if you love people and love providing service. More recently, we've added optimization and analytics as a service to clients for whom we built their website.
Awesome.
And now that's become a growth area and something that we're more focused on.
Are there certain CMSs that you like to focus on, like WordPress, Shopify?
WordPress, Shopify, and Drupal.
Okay.
We use WooCommerce a lot. We use Drupal Commerce. But most of the work that we do is B2B lead gen sites built on WordPress. But actually, we do all kinds of different stuff.
Right on. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little WordPress burnout. I'm looking at ways that we can help our clients and make suggestions that involve long term if they end up going somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
that their sites won't get hacked. And I feel like WordPress, it's just so vulnerable. If you don't keep it up to date within 3 or 4 months, you've set yourself up for being hacked. So we got to be really careful. But it's
We do.
yeah, you're right. I think it still is the best CMS that we know of right now for general lead generation. Even for 20 products or less and using WooCommerce, it's still
Mm-hmm.
a great overall solution. I do like Shopify's features and
Mm-hmm.
integrations with their shop app, and how quickly users
Mm-hmm.
can tap their way through a transaction without having to use their keyboard, where WooCommerce hasn't gotten there 100% yet. But
Mm-hmm.
hey, we're rambling. You've got a book called Content Chemistry, the illustrated handbook for content marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It's been called the most practical book ever written about modern digital marketing. Can you tell us more about it, and how writing it continues to change your own understanding of online marketing?
Yeah. If anyone wants like a really rewarding intellectual challenge, open a bottle of wine and make an outline of everything that you know on a topic,
Yep.
and then analyze that list to see if there's anything that you haven't ever talked about or written about or recorded a video for or published an article for.
Hmm.
And then for the next 6 months, let's say, go through and fill in those gaps by publishing content on those you know white space topics.
Hmm.
And what you will have done is produced most of a book. Then you need
Yeah.
to like take a month off, or in my case, I got up an extra 2 hours early every day for 3 months and fill in the blanks, create the cohesive through line on the whole piece. Get the first draft ready, hand it over to an editor, hand it over to a designer. You get back a file that is basically ready for print. Work with the print distributor that knows how to handle all the Amazon relationship and that sort of stuff. So I sort of blogged into the book. It's an amazing leave behind. It is the feedback on it is incredible. It sells enough to pay for itself. It's a textbook for my classes at Northwestern at
Right.
Harborspace.
Yep.
So it's in its fifth edition. So I have to keep rewriting this book, or it becomes irrelevant.
Well, digital marketing, yeah, it makes
Digital
sense every
marketing.
year.
Yep.
Yeah.
The earlier versions were pretty hilarious. It was like, here's how Google authorship works.
Do you ever archive.org your old original websites? I do that all the time. I'm like,
I
look at me
know.
in my 20s doing this stuff.
They look so small. They're like eight by six, right? 800 by 600. They're tiny. Those old websites are funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Well, congratulations on the book. It sounds incredible. Fifth edition means you've put a lot of heart and soul in revisiting it. I'm writing a textbook right now for students, and I went through that same outlining process.
Mm.
I know exactly what you mean by filling in the blanks.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in the SEO world, everything I went to go back to repurpose was already outdated. So I'm
Mm.
finding myself having to rewrite a lot of it. But for most topics, they don't change as dynamically as SEO does. So I agree. I think that could be a really easy process for anybody who wants to write a book.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Um, let's dive into marketing efforts that are data driven. This is kind of a big topic for me and a pet peeve of mine of other agencies that we've worked with. In fact, some clients that we've talked to would fire their agencies after a group discussion where we talked about data driven goals and KPIs because the agencies just didn't have any sort of bearing behind it. But first things first, what do currently, let me think, what do you currently do to identify the right KPIs, for a client and maybe even for your own team on
Hmm.
how you can achieve goals for a project?
Sure. Well, the biggest picture, and this is an oversimplification, but a useful one, the two most important metrics in digital marketing are traffic and conversion rates,
Yep.
because traffic times
What
conversion
about
rate.
revenue
Yeah. Well, in the
for
marketing,
e-com?
well, yeah, for e-commerce, right. The conversion rate is a sale. So that would be revenue. But thinking of that as useful because then you can basically boil it off and say, I need to do two things as a marketer. It's about the cheese and about the mousetrap.
Yeah.
Every marketing program that's failing is either failing at attracting qualified visitors,
Hmm.
that is often but not always search optimization, and turning those visitors into leads and customers, which is conversion optimization.
Conversion rate. Hmm.
For some reason, search optimization has like forever been a hot topic, and conversion rate optimization you hardly ever hear about, even though
Right.
it's critically important. So yeah, oversimplification, cheese and mousetrap, SEO and CRO, traffic and conversion rates. But
Yeah.
past that, when I talk to people about marketing metrics and KPIs, I try to highlight the importance of some of the more difficult to find metrics because those are often more directly related to the bottom line.
The root of the problem, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the things like sales closing rates and net promoter scores and margin. These are difficult to find metrics, but they are absolutely connected to the sustainability of that business.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there's very easy to see metrics, top of funnel metrics, or even like things like social media metrics or rankings. These are super visible. Everyone can see them, but in fact, they are not that closely correlated to business success.
Right.
The conclusion becomes there's an inverse relationship between the visibility of a metric and its importance. The more visible the metric, the less important it is. The more hard to
Interesting.
calculate the metric, like I got to call a bunch of clients to find out my NPS, or I need to
Right.
talk to my CEO or a business analyst to figure out sales closing rates or margins. Those are the important ones, right? Very difficult to calculate, or much more difficult, not accessible. So,
Yeah, like you'd mentioned, CRO being an important thing that
mhm.
somewhat gets neglected, but there really is no SEO without CRO when we think about user search behavior. So you're right. There's definitely I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, it's conversion rates are only available if you have analytics set up properly.
Right.
That's a much harder metric to do well. I've almost every day I'm inside accounts where goals were set up in weird ways or that's hard to measure.
Yeah.
Uh,
You're measuring page views as a goal? What's going on?
yeah, or that's which is so weird. Why do people do that? I frequently
I've
see
never
Google Analytics
understood it.
accounts where time on it's like you'll find a goal, like the conversion rate on the website is 45%. What?
Yeah.
45% of visitors take action? Oh no, wait, they set up a goal to show people who spend 3 minutes on a page as a goal. A conversion, I'm a stickler about this. The word conversion should be taken literally. The
Yeah.
noun that you use to describe that person should change. They were a
Right.
visitor, now they're a
Now
lead.
they're a
Now they're
customer.
a customer, now they're a donor, now
Mhm.
they're a subscriber, now they're a job applicant, now they're a
The only
registrant.
thing I could think of as to why they do it is to make their reports look better. That's the only thing that I could think of as to why they do it because I've seen that. I've even seen it with really large brands that we've worked with. One that had over 4,000 locations. So um, I said, guys, let's absolutely track this as events if this is important to you, but I don't
Yeah.
think we need to track it as a goal, especially when those goals are being ported into bidding automation programs within Google Ads
Oh,
or Bing Ads. It just doesn't make sense. You're going to get a lot of invalid data, right?
it's
So
it ruins that view. Might as well just burn it down and create a new view in analytics where you've got better data because what is you basically claimed a KPI as the goal. It doesn't make any sense. It's
Yeah.
not. That's not a goal. That's an engagement metric, and it's available in other places anyway.
Right.
You don't even need
So
to make
do
it a goal. You could just track it as an event or just look at it. You
yeah,
could,
it's there if you want to analyze it. And you
yeah,
can
make a
put it into a
segment.
data studio report, right?
Exactly. Thanks, Steve.
So I think we got 2 points. Point number one is the primary KPIs that a business could be tracking are simply, your, like you mentioned, traffic,
Hmm.
and conversion, or if you're e-commerce, revenue.
Hmm.
And then number two is that the actual data that you should be looking at is probably the less obvious data.
That's right.
Right? The data that you see every day that you can get from any program or application
Hmm.
is probably not as helpful as the data that you have to work a little bit harder to get. Right?
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
I love it. Slightly different from goals and getting into KPIs a little bit deeper. How how do you define a KPI for a business if for those small businesses who are listening are going, what the heck is this KPI thing they keep talking about? And what goes on your list is sort of a mission critical top KPIs. Outside of just
Hmm.
the core things we talked about with traffic and revenue and conversion,
Hmm.
that can be tracked for SEO performance specifically.
Sure. Well, if you think of a KPI as key performance indicator is something that correlates with success. It is not success. It simply correlates with success.
It's the
So
journey, not the goal.
yeah, it's a directional cue, right? You're going in the
Yeah,
right direction. You could max out that KPI at some huge number and still fail, not less likely, but it's something that correlates. It's not the
yeah.
actual. It's not causal, and it's not the ultimate purpose. So
Mhm.
here's a classic example. You teach someone the importance of domain authority or whichever tool they use, authority score, domain rating, or whether you're Moz or Ahrefs or SEMrush. Okay,
Right.
so now people they have a metric to measure link popularity or their backlink profile or whatever you want to, there's different
Mhm.
jargon for this. And then people begin to focus on that. And sometimes they start to obsess over that as if that's the main point of their marketing, which is that's the golden life. It was never the golden life. When they see it go up, they celebrate. When they see it go down, they cry. It's not actually the point, nor is it actually Google. It's not Google either. It's a proxy
It's a
metric.
proprietary, yeah,
Yeah, it's a
thing.
software tool that's emulating Google, and it goes up or down sort of based on, does that tool go to capture more stuff today or less stuff today? Uh, so in the end, it's not, domain authority is not rankings. Rankings is also insufficient. You need a click through rate. Once you get a click through rate, you've got a visitor. When you need the visitor to get the conversion. So conversion and success is a chain. You can analyze anyone's digital program by looking at the strength of each chain. If there's a weak link in the chain, as in that KPI is lower than expected, you could focus on that. To focus on that, you're going to be creating a hypothesis, ideally a list of hypotheses. Your
Mhm.
next job as a strategist is to prioritize a list of hypotheses.
Right.
And that's how to be a strategic, focused, targeted digital marketer is
And
to,
have it as in an action plan somewhere
yeah,
written that everybody sees and is accountable for, not just, hey guys, let's try this thing. It's like, well, how is that backed by anything, any data,
yeah.
any plan or strategy? Well, we did it for a client 5 years ago and it worked. It's like,
I, it,
let's put a plan together, an
yeah.
action plan. Let's delegate it out and start working on it and hold each other accountable every month to the results. Right.
They say to that point, really important point that you just made, Steve, is like, oh, this worked once for someone else. The
Right.
best way to think about best practices are just that they are good hypotheses.
Right.
A best practice is a hypothesis. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And why would you need best practices at all if you have your own data?
Yeah.
What worked in your context, your content, your audience, your platform? So, I
Yeah,
think,
what worked previously that we stopped doing that we might revisit. I remember a client of ours in Australia used to create great traffic driving content. And then, the way that people consume content changed and their traffic started to go down to those pages.
mm-hmm,
So eventually he realized, hey, let's revisit these pages. Let's add commentary from actual doctors and nurses. Let's add some social media components to it. Let's add better references and diagrams, and before you know it, all those pages, were moving up in the search results again and driving more traffic again. But it didn't take recreating the wheel. They knew they had great content. They just needed to give it a little bit more love and attention and look at the pages that didn't go down to realize what those differences were. It's interesting when I think about the KPIs around SEO. One of the things I like to do is break out the responsibilities of each team member
Hmm.
or each group for helping us achieve the overall objective, right? The overall objective is, yeah, let's increase revenue and let's increase traffic, but everybody plays a role in that. For the web developers, we might be looking at Deep Crawl or Screaming Frog
Mm-hmm.
or Write, RYTE, maybe even SEMrush's own crawl tool, and use that as a bit of a guide, while still breaking out the areas of accessibility, security, privacy,
Mm-hmm.
mobile friendliness, and then say, here's where our baseline is based on the metrics that we have. This is where we currently are. Where do we want to be in 12 months from now? And what are some milestones that we can look
Yeah.
forward to as we try to reach those things? Then you hold that team accountable to those results. It's a performance thing. It's a incentivization
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And no, that's just one group. Now the content team, same thing.
Right.
You live and breathe in content world, and so many times I've seen great writers write great content and never once look to see how their content's performing. Hey, you applied these 6 core search terms to this page, right? A
Mm-hmm.
primary, and then maybe some derivatives, and a subtopic that are all really high traffic driving keywords. How are they performing? How are they ranking? Are you watching the top performing pages to see what they're doing and changing? Are you getting there's a tool called Visual Ping that we use that
Hmm.
tells you when a page changes. It's a
Hmm.
free tool up to like 5 searches or whatever.
Cool.
And I find it so interesting that these writers put such great effort into their content, but they don't take the time to see how their content's performing over time. And if we can figure out a way once a month, to circle back with that team and say, how's your content doing? Our KPI, right? Our KPI goal, was to go from not ranking to being in the top 5 positions within 18 months. That's
Mm-hmm.
our goal. How are we doing to getting to that goal? What's our percentage, of where we are based on where we should be if we're going to hit that 18-month goal? And the third part, I think, gets into, well, third of 4 parts, I think gets into the off-page side, like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
link metrics.
Yep.
What's the quality of the links, of the specific pages of the links that we're getting, not the domain. Anyone can create a link on some hacked subdomain somewhere on some really high authority website, but the page itself, what's the likelihood of that page actually getting links on its own, of sending good quality referral traffic,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just being seen by thousands of people for brand awareness. Setting some goals with the team of where we are with our links and where we want to be in 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that last piece, as you mentioned, CRO is so important, so much important that we've actually seen correlations in what happens within Google search results with search behavior. If a user sees a result that stands out, if there's 10 listings on the page and they click on that result more often than other pages, and for the most part they stay on that page, it seems like without changing the content or the links, that page continues to move up.
Huh.
But if the page doesn't convert well, if it doesn't solve for what they're looking
Sure.
for, if it hasn't addressed their browser, their internet speed, their accessibility needs, right, then over time those users are going to go back to the search results, choose a competing result, and then the search engine goes, I thought you were helpful, but you know what? People who go to your website tend to come back and choose someone else. So we noticed that search behavior is really important. So the
Sure.
KPIs that we like to set with the whole team, the content team and the tech team, is to work with our titles, descriptions, and really rich results that can appear within our listing within the search results. So I think as we set KPIs, if we assign them, like you said, delegating is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Assign them to those different teams,
Mm-hmm.
and then revisit once a month to see what percentage toward our goal we're getting to. That's the sign of a business that is going to succeed. The strategy part, of course, is the foundation, but the ongoing is paying attention and making sure that we're keeping up with where we want to be. Because 6 months goes by like this, and you
Yeah.
look back, you're like, you know what? I have no idea where I'm ranking. I've moved on to these other things, and
Right.
haven't realized that my page went from page 2 to page 6. Right?
Yeah.
So
And
anyway, I'm rambling, but that was that's my thinking. As we as we learn as a business, how we can track and measure what we're doing in search. It shouldn't be the one SEO guy. It should be everybody who's involved, all the stakeholders.
yeah,
That makes this SEO job, so much easier, I think.
I've heard it said SEO is an outcome. It's not a job. It's
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
job.
that's a great way to think about it. I
Yeah.
love that.
It's not exactly as, one person does one thing. People who don't understand this say, oh, I finished this thing. Now go optimize it. That's not
Yep.
how it works at all.
Now, I'm not gonna lie. What we're using most of the time for a lot of our clients is just a Google sheet. We
Sure.
break down the different tech and content and off page, and then traffic metrics.
Hmm.
And we keep that in a Google sheet. And every month we put our data in a data tab, and then we extract it to see what our year over year is in another tab, and then we have a dashboard. That shows how we're doing in terms of getting to our KPI or hitting our KPI goals. But we do have some data studio
Hmm.
things that we put together. But because analytics is so slow, some of those data studio reports just take forever to propagate. What are some of your favorite tools? What do you use to track KPIs when it comes to digital marketing?
I live and breathe inside Google Analytics. It
Okay,
has
same here.
there's limits to it. If you're serious
Not
about,
Google Analytics 4, right? Universal?
I'm not using Analytics 4 yet,
Okay, good.
but that's going to
I
be a
hate it.
new focus area for me.
Uh,
I will be if you want to go one step farther and get better data for the sake of conversion.
mhm.
I would use Hotjar to see click heat maps
Yeah,
and scroll heat maps to give you much better insights into what
that's a great
and
one.
screen recordings for KPIs and to move and for more detailed information about things that analytics doesn't track, such as ranking fluctuations. Then every day I use both Moz and SEMrush.
Okay,
Not that I mean, there's doesn't really matter to me. I don't. Jay Bear says, right, it's about the wizard, not the wand. One of my most common questions is which tool should I get, and it just I'm not sure. I don't
just
really love the question.
pick one, and use it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't know that there's that much. I mean, everyone has an opinion about this, but I don't think the tool is the point, of course. Um,
Mhm.
Back to KPIs, and as a content marketer, one of the numbers that I love to focus on, and I think it does, I agree, it does correlate with search rankings.
Yeah,
The user's experience, as you said, is time on page. If
that's a good
I
point.
know that if I write these articles that have like 7 minutes and 9 minutes time on page, these are also the articles that rank like a champ, right? Because they
Right.
are super long, they're detailed, they're complete, they answer every related question. I'm putting videos, I'm shooting videos
Mhm.
to put on the top of these pages.
But it also helps us learn about our audiences, and we can put those folks who spent 7 minutes on a page into a custom audience for retargeting, for sure.
I should probably do that.
Yeah.
You bring up a huge blind spot for me. I have never run an ad. This is a $6 million
Really?
agency with 42 employees, and we do, we've got 400 clients. I've never tried
But that
advertising.
says something about the business, though. That means you're doing such a great job organically that you haven't really needed it.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
we're beating our sales targets. I should, but I definitely should. Right, like try
You
retargeting.
can get a lot of great data from running ads. We like to look at our search term reports and ads to help us to improve our SEO. We like to look at our placement reports from display, non-remarketing, but regular display, as link building and native advertising opportunities.
I'm sure
There's
I'd
so
learn a
much that you
ton.
can extrapolate
Uh,
from your ads that you can't get from just organic.
I'm
Yeah.
sure, but this is remember, like this is we have 1.5 marketers here. We
Yep.
generate 900 leads a year and 1.5 million visitors with
It's
this much
amazing.
effort. That's it. Like this is sufficient. So it's a question
Right.
of like what else. I'm sure it would be effective. It's like gated content. Never tried it. Pop-up windows. Never used one.
Yeah.
Should I?
And
Maybe. But
I
if
don't
you're
know.
meeting your goals,
If I'm not a fan of it, I don't want to do it. Like pop-ups drive me crazy.
I personally don't enjoy seeing pop-ups, but
Yeah.
I've also seen every single, I've seen every case study that shows that they're somehow effective. Anyway,
Yeah.
if you're meeting your goals, then maybe there's, it's not necessary to do those other things.
Yep. Next question that we had, we put a few questions together that we thought would be really helpful to folks that haven't really experimented much with tracking and measuring results. Something that many SEOs and marketing professionals must conquer is that translation of tracking and reporting terminology into user-friendly language. We probably accidentally used a bunch of big words even in this podcast that marketers are like, okay, I'm gonna have to go back and Google that. We've heard more than once from clients, just give it to me in plain English. In fact, we heard that yesterday from one of our accounts. Can you give us your tips on effectively communicating in conversations and in reports and understanding some of these important metrics and data to business owners and entrepreneurs that really don't speak the language of marketing and potentially don't express an interest in learning the definitions that that we live by.
Nor should they have to if they're not a
Right?
practitioner. You don't
Yeah.
need. My major in college was Mandarin. How useful is that to me? Not very,
Mandarin,
because I'm
really?
not
That's
here. Yeah,
amazing.
I'm in Chicago. I don't need Mandarin. I used to love it and speak Mandarin all day, every day. So
I learned French in high school because I thought it'd be sexy for, for dating or something. And I was like, why didn't I just take Spanish? I'm in Southern California.
yeah,
So I'm
we
with
all
you.
regret not learning Spanish, but French is kind of
Yeah.
sexy.
Right.
But back to search. If one of the best compliments you'll get is like, "Hey, that made sense. Someone finally had, explained it to me in plain English. Thank you for speaking English." I get that.
Right.
People say that. So as a content marketer, you're very sensitive to your language because you're trying to connect with people, and you're basically the best marketers are teachers. The best brands are empathetic. The best
Hmm.
salespeople use the language of their prospect. It's all basically the same thing.
Right.
We have to connect with people where they are. Communication isn't what you say; it's what they hear. That's the definition of communication. It's like what finally made it into their brain. So
Right.
I do. People do like to learn though, and I do frequently explain terms like, but I qualify it like
Hmm.
SERP. Nerds like me actually use that term. It just means search engine results page, and you've seen a million of them. You
Right.
just maybe never knew there was a name for it.
Yeah.
Dwell time, uh,
Hmm.
backlink profile, anchor focused, keyword focused anchor text,
Right.
domain authority. There's so many of these different metrics, different names, different jargon.
And the newest Core Web Vitals.
Core Web Vitals,
What?
yeah. First
What?
input delay, and that one has got it's like a new,
Accelerated mobile page.
yeah,
What's going
it's like
on?
a new dialect. First contentful paint. That's not an actual term. Like contentful is not a word. Like Google's
I know.
making up new
I kept
words.
looking at it like, am I reading it wrong?
No,
Like
I
I
had to look that
what's
one
going
up. I'm
on?
like,
What
no,
is
that
this?
isn't a word. Google just made that up. So anyway, the point is to persuade, to be clear, not to be
Hmm.
clever. I think that people use big words because they're insecure and they want to sound smart. But you risk,
Interesting.
but when you try to make yourself sound smart, you risk making the listener feel dumb, and that is bad
Right.
for conversion. It's bad for sales. It's bad for teaching. It's bad for communication. You're not being a good
Sure.
internet citizen. So
I love your idea about asking the clients as you're talking to them, what do you consider points of success, right? What
yeah,
happens when somebody, goes to your website and they fill out a form? What would you call that? And then you take their language and how they see it, and then
yeah,
you convert your reports into that's brilliant. It's a great idea, Andy.
yeah, and conversion, that doesn't make sense to people. Don't talk that way. What's a conversion? Oh, we
Yeah.
improved our conversion rate. Conversion rate. What are you talking about? Bounce rate. I was on a conversation this morning. I want to increase the amount of time people spend on this page because everyone's bouncing. Wait, those are different things. Bounce rate is
Yeah.
not time on page, nor is
Right.
time on page bounce rate. So you have to define
And
these
that,
terms
that
if you
high
want to use
bounce
them.
rates because people are getting what they need, perhaps like a phone number or something,
Yeah.
right? It's okay. It's not bounce rate's not always a bad thing.
What's a bounce? Well, a bounce is a one, and then like at conferences, people want to sound smarter than the other person. So it's like, what's a bounce? Oh, it's a one-page visit. No, it's not. It's a one-hit session. If an event gets triggered, then it's not a bounce, right? Well, what if you set non-interaction hit to true? What if you set like
Yeah.
Google Tag Manager? You can create, depending on your category, action, and label for your bounce. Like, dude, who cares? This isn't the
Yeah.
point. The point of marketing isn't to make yourself sound smart. You're like one of those sports nerds who quote baseball stats. This is not the point of.
Exactly.
Yeah, this isn't good for your personal brand to talk like
Yeah.
this.
The point is, are we learning about what our customers are doing or not doing that drives conversion, right? And I think, arguing over the definitions of words instead of focusing on just really fully understanding what the users are trying to accomplish so that we can make that happen faster is really the end goal.
Yeah,
You're right. As nerds love to get into the meat of things a little too much
which is
or
fine.
overanalyze
Yeah,
things.
if you're with a bunch of nerds, it's everyone speaks the same dialect in that tribe. It's like human behavior. But here's some language that I use that people relate to, and
Yeah.
boils a lot of it off. Content marketing is a test of generosity. The brand or the person that gives away the most helpful, useful advice
Mhm.
and promotes it well will win the most love, the most awareness, the most business. Oh, that makes
I've
sense.
seen
That
that
really
so
is.
much. Mhm.
That is what it is. That's what we're all
Yeah,
doing here. That's the point. Yeah. Search rankings, that part of it, not a
yeah.
goal, right? What is our goal? It's to be a good internet citizen. It's to be helpful, same as it ever
If you
was.
learn something that you don't that you took you a while to figure out on your own that wasn't available online and you share it,
Yeah.
someone else who had that same problem is going to see that and they're going to be thankful. I love seeing those thank yous in the YouTube video
Yep.
comments and the blog comments. I think it's rewarding, and it also it makes you smarter when you teach something that
Yeah.
you learn it even more. You lock it in.
Learn something valuable and then teach it. That is good in life. I mean, twas ever thus.
That's true.
So you and I are both teachers. We're both like university style
Mhm.
teachers. So that
Yep.
makes us, we get an extra perspective that way. You know?
That's true. Well, I know you have a hard stop, Andy. I want to be conscious of your time. I have one more question, if time permits. I have an optional, and this relates to A/B testing.
Mhm.
A/B testing seems to be something that a lot of businesses get hung up on. One, because they just don't have the resources. Two, they hear the term Google Optimize and start to panic because they've never used it before. Um, can you kind of give us your approach and your take on A/B testing, especially as it relates to search engine optimization and conversion rate optimization?
Sure. So as I said before, success is the last link in a chain. So start from the last link. My strong recommendation is that you begin at the end, because if there's problems with the very last link in this chain, nothing
Yep.
else matters. So for example, obvious example, your contact form is broken. Doesn't matter how much other marketing you do, like people can't fill out the contact form, like you'll never generate a lead. In B2B lead gen,
Mhm.
like your phone doesn't work. It's like a it's like a disaster. Okay, so is your contact page effective? Is it simple? Is it persuasive? Is it a greedy form or an easy form? Okay, do that first. Make sure that's optimized. Next, the calls to action that bring people to the contact page. I'm going to go backwards through a user experience because my goal is to build a bridge from google.com to the thank you page.
Mhm.
That's a way to summarize digital
I
marketing.
can't just use learn more on all my buttons.
You can try. Well, maybe. So I don't know for sure. Potentially, yes. There's a way to find out, and it's called A/B testing. So the call to action that
Exactly.
brings people to the contact form, that can be tested. Give me 1 second. The page where that exists, that should have created the demand and interest, where the person felt enough trust to click that button. So next, the third step in the backwards chain would be to improve the service page. The next step before that would be the home page. The next step for
Mhm.
that I would prioritize might be the about page. The next step before that I would prioritize might be the branded search results page. Are
Yep.
there any reputation issues? You'll never even know if that's a failure because you don't get any analytics on who didn't click.
Sure.
So going backwards through the funnel, all the way from the last step to the first step, prioritizing the end.
From that confirmation page
Yeah,
all the way back. I
all the way
love that
back. Yeah,
approach.
because
That's genius.
because if there's there may be already people on your contact form right now. As every listener listens to this, as you and I are speaking right now, there may be visitors on our contact page who bail out at the last second. So definitely do that one first. So I would optimize from the bottom up. And when you get to things like a call to action, you are really just guessing unless you have a little bit of data to inform you. You could do that
Right.
as a pre-post test. Just change your call to action and go look to see if the click-through rate changed. That's the percentage. I want to define my terms now because we just finished complaining about jargon.
Going through definitions. Yeah, now we're
Yeah.
talking about CTR.
The percentage of people who land on that page and then click on the call to action is called the
Sure.
click-through rate. So
Yep.
the click-through rate for that call to action is measurable in an analytics report called the navigation summary. In
Hmm.
10 seconds, I can tell you how many people clicked on every button on every page. It's in the navigation summary report. So if you change the call to action from learn more to chat with Steve to get fresh ideas about your content marketing,
Right.
your search optimization, and then I go back and I run that for 2 weeks, assuming there's not big seasonal changes or other trends.
It
Uh,
varies based on how much actual traffic you get to your page. So you
yeah,
want to
you
get
might need to
enough
leave it
traffic to make it
right.
might be 3 months that you run the test if you don't get very much, if you're not getting very much traffic.
It's a problem. A lot of people, a lot of listeners, a lot of friends, me personally, lots of us don't really have so much traffic that we get to strong
Yeah.
statistical relevance. But if I change the CTA and I see a lift in the click-through rate from that page to that form,
Hmm.
success. So in the
Yep.
end, the lots of all marketers have ideas, but the best marketers have hypotheses. Hypotheses is simply an idea that you can go make a change
Yeah.
and measure the impact.
Yep.
And the way to do that is either simply making a change in the CMS, in the content management system, in WordPress, and then going to see the change in the navigation summary report, or to use a tool like Google Optimize. If that sounded scary, I would just encourage you to be patient for a half hour while you set it up because it is
Right.
way easier than you'd think. You
Mm.
don't even need software anymore. You don't have to pay any money anymore. A/B
Yep.
testing is so easy to do. Um, On the other hand, don't test something if you know that it's broken. Just fix it. I think people that get
Yeah,
into it,
right.
yeah, people are like A/B. I should A/B test this. No, you shouldn't. It's not
Yeah,
working.
yeah.
It's definitely bad. Go
Your
change it.
your form has 43 fields on it. It's broken.
Yeah, you don't need a B. Just do the A, right? Just fix it.
Exactly. Well, Andy, I know you got to get going. In 1 minute or less, let's see if we can get through just a really quick lightning round of questions.
Sure.
Number one, what is your favorite digital marketing tool?
Google Analytics.
All right, yeah, fair enough. Who should we follow if we want to get better at digital marketing in general, broadly?
Brian Massey
Okay,
from Conversion Optimizers.
right on. Okay, and
Or
fastest
I'm
way.
sorry, Conversion Sciences is the name of the company, his company.
Okay, fastest way to rank a web page in search results.
Find a page that almost ranks and go rewrite it, adding depth, detail, data, contributor quotes, video, diagrams, images, content, and quality.
Nice. Biggest myth in SEO,
Uh,
in
duplicate,
your opinion?
duplicate. Probably, I should say SEO is dead because people keep saying that. But I think the biggest myth is that there's a penalty for duplicate content.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Pierre Farr used to say that to us all the time. He's like, "Don't worry about it. There's no penalty for it. Just try to get it cleaned up and make it focused for
Yeah,
one page."
yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, Andy, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking time and sharing so much information about content strategy and KPIs and how to measure results. This was a lot of fun. And what are you doing right now that you want to tell people about, and how can they reach you?
I'm easy to find, orbitmedia.com. I write an article there every 2 weeks. So if anyone were to subscribe to that article, that's the only email they'll get is one article every 2 weeks from me. That's my frequency. I don't have time to
No
write more.
spam, just email, just
Just
content.
an email every 2 weeks. And please, if you're already on my list and you're bored with it, just unsubscribe, please. I do not want to send any email to anyone that doesn't want it. LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me. That'd be my most active social network. And I right now have it switched to follow instead of connect. You can change
Okay.
that blue button. Skip the follow, just click the more or whatever the dots and scroll down, and you can click to connect with me. I connect with every marketer that sends me a connection invite.
Awesome. And guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Unbottleneck. Andy, thank you so much for being on our show. And for everyone, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Steve.